Hello, RC fans. Racing 393, and I thought today I would do a video that I think many of us go through in the RC hobby. Let me start at the beginning. Many of us got into the RC hobby at a young age. We may have got the car for Christmas or birthday from a parent or guardian because we probably saw a picture in a magazine in a shop, or maybe you bought a magazine, or if you were lucky enough to have a RC store nearby, you may have seen him in the shop window. You've popped in and you've seen, these wonderful cars built up on the shelf or boxes, the box art, especially Tamiya. And as a child, you're not aware of prices or the context of how much things cost. And if you were lucky enough, maybe you got one of these for Christmas. And that's pretty much how I started with the Sand Sculpture. Now, let's speed forward into adulthood. Now, where the point of this video is the bits that I lack through my general life, if I'm honest. Racing. I'm on the fence. It's not because I don't want to race my RC cars. All through my life, I have been surrounded locally by tracks and clubs, some of which I knew, some of which I didn't know were running. Not many of the clubs advertise perhaps like they should have done. Back in the day, we didn't really have internet. I didn't. So it was only through magazines, or if you were talking to someone, one of your friends or whatever, and they happen to mention that there's a club nearby, that's perhaps all you would know. You certainly, from where I live, you wouldn't literally just drive past it and think, oh, what's that over there? Is that what's going on? And you'll have a look. Perhaps to give you some idea, my local car club didn't advertise out on the street, as it were. It used to have little signs up. If you went to the local market, you'd see kart track and you could hear them. So you may have been there for a different reason and then wondering, what is that noise over there? We're going to investigate. And maybe some people would actually take up karting, other than those that perhaps within the fraternity would speak to others and so on and so forth, word of mouth. RC tracks perhaps work like that, but you certainly, unless they're going to be nitro, which nowadays, especially around where I am, nitro tracks or clubs locally are just non-existent. So you would hear them. I do remember hearing nitro at my localish track. I knew that was there because I read it in a magazine, and they were actually running nitros. That's quite impressive back in those days, which kind of spurred me on to get one of my first nitros, Schumacher Nitro 10 or something. Anyway, let's get back on topic of racing. If you've watched my channel, you'll know that I did quite a long video series on and off of my LMP12 exploits and getting into the BRCA national rounds, which I'd never done any racing, not official. It was always a turn up, have a go, and go home. I did it once, like a practice. I can't remember what Tamiya I had now. I think it was I want to say the Repsol Escort. I hopped it up back in the day, but I took it to a local track just to have a go around a track. Super impossible, I can remember. I didn't actually stay that long because I thought it was so difficult. There wasn't many people there. It was like a Sunday or something. I need to pay like £5. Took the car around. I literally just had the transmitter, the car, a NiCad battery, and that's it. There was no tools, nothing. I just turned up, and I was so disappointed in me, the experience, I was karting at the time, so from karting to that, so underwhelming. So I didn't do it. That was the last. That was years ago. We're talking perhaps I was driving, so I was at least between 17 and 19 years of age. Going forward to a grand old age of middle age, a bit more disposable income, more awareness, and a very keen mind to get back into the hobby. During lockdown, fun enough, so 2019, 2020, I decided to get back into RC hobby, not nothing to do with racing. Bought a hot shot. So we go on a few years, and we end up with 100+ RC cars, vintage and new. The re-releases of childhood memory cars by all the manufacturers rekindles that interest and that spark. It also helps the fact that I have probably come to the conclusion that I'm no longer at an age where I can competitively race, i.e. karting. It does creep up on you. In your mind you think you can. In reality you realise that no matter what you do, you're not going to be competitive, not to the level that you used to be at. So you could argue that racing in RC, is it going to be in the same ballpark? Too old to race? Maybe not, because many people that I've seen at the clubs that I've been to are from all ages. So it's quite refreshing to see young and old together racing, and everyone is competitive from what I've seen. So after now, in nowadays, I suppose, lots of internet, lots of information, everything at your fingertips. The BRCA website isn't the best, but it's there for information purposes, which leads me on to various tracks and clubs, which is one of which is actually local to me, which I never knew. It's been there 10 years. It's an outdoor Astro track, which I've probably mentioned in other videos. Is it Surrey and Northants RC Club? I think they were also based in Farnham, which again isn't far from me anyway. But they moved to this local school, AstroTurf, which is, as the crow flies, 10 minutes from me. During my exploits of taking up racing, I did, and still interested in, LMP12, indoor car bit racing at my localish track, not as local as this one I'm talking about now. But we lead on to perhaps what happens in real life. I don't have any children, sadly, so it's literally just me and my partner. She works as well full time, and so do I. So we don't have other distractions as such, but work, and the work that I do sort of varies from two different types of work, take up quite a bit of time. And when you get home or at a weekend, if I'm not working, I'm in that kind of mindset of, I don't want to get up early to go down to a club and spend all day there racing. I've probably answered my own question. However, I am interested and I want to do it. I need to change my mindset on it. At the moment, my routine is at a weekend, if I'm not working, is I'll get up whatever time, but I take the dog out for a run, about an hour and 20 minutes. Part of that is for well-being and fitness, because my job does involve sitting down. That's not good for you anyway for long term. And during that run, I see various areas of which that I could try out my RC cars. There's just things when I'm running with the dog and I'm thinking about what I'm going to do the weekend. in my case, not racing, but could I run a car there? If I brought a car down here, would it work? Could I do a video on it? Things like that. So that's generally how I am. As far as like real world racing, I go to watch that in the summer. So during the winter, there's not a huge amount going on, I suppose. When it comes to RC racing, I don't particularly want to stand outside in the cold or wet working, running, racing an RC car. That transfers to real world racing, where I don't want to stand out on a cold racetrack watching people race. That doesn't interest me anymore. When I was racing, it wouldn't matter what the weather was like. You were just part of it. So I know what you're thinking. What's the point? Why you are here? Why are you chatting to me? Why am I listening to you? Hopefully, you'll find out the answers towards the end of the video. So, my plan is to race, or have a go anyway. I mean, it says racing. The LMP12 scene indoor is still running, but that runs on a Tuesday evening, and it's about an hour away. For me, I need to work, and I've said this before, I need to work around my work diary to make that happen. I don't live, as I said, local enough just to sort of turn up and run the car. An hour away, especially in the evening on a weekday, and where that is, it's a nightmare to get to. You've got rush hour, traffic. So I have to make room on my work day to get there. It's not at a weekend. If it was at a weekend, it might ironically be better. But people have more things to do nowadays. Even the people running the club, they've got families, home life things, all the stuff that you get on and do, shopping, getting your car serviced, all the stuff that you have to just do, dealing with the children, if they've got things to do, events and clubs and activities, so on and so forth. So I can understand why clubs sort of run during the week. Now, it's okay if you're local to that club. It's less of a problem. But all of the people that you watch or know, YouTube or real life, they might live nearer a club. I got the feeling that quite a lot of people have to put some effort in and travel. Now, this is something which I'm probably my own worst enemy at. I talk myself out of it very easily. But the club closer to me, which is about 10 minutes, runs outdoor buggy tracks on AstroTurf. It's floodlit. Yes, it's outdoors. So in the winter may not appeal to me, but they've done two-wheel drive, or they not done, they do two-wheel drive buggy, four-wheel drive buggy, and short course truck. The short course truck. Right. Let's stop right there. I've completely misunderstood what a short course truck actually is. When I was recording this video, in my head I was thinking, I'm pretty sure that's not right. I'm not interested in short course trucks, so I'm interrupting myself here. I'm more hoping to go down the, what are they called? The truggies? Trucks? Like I mentioned it in the video, the Schumacher Storm, or what I mentioned, the RC10T, the two-wheel drive truggies. That's what I was hoping to race. Or, as I mentioned in the video, or will mention, you'll find out in a minute, is the vintage buggy scene. Ultimately, I'm going to need to go down to the club and have a look and see what they do. So forget short course. Forget it. Is maybe what interests me. They're not trophy trucks, are they? So you'll be running the is it the Storm, not the Schumacher Storm, or even they also do vintage as a class. So I'll have to go down there. So maybe I can either do a vintage buggy, which I've got many, which in my sort of RC shed, which I haven't built, or I was thinking of doing the RC10T because I quite like the thought of doing something like a two-wheel drive off-road truck. Now, I don't know, one, if they do that particular class. I'll have to find out. Two, because you've got an older truck design, or classic, it's probably not going to be nowhere near as competitive at all as the more modern trucks. I don't know. Then you're thinking, well, does it matter? Because I'm not going to be winning anyway. But I'd like to be in the same sort of chance of winning. So I won't know exactly which way I'm going until I go down to that club. So they practice on Tuesday night, which clashes with the LMP12 race meetings. They also run Tuesday night. Now, I'm not saying I will practice every Tuesday, but, it's there. It's only 10 minutes away. They race at weekends. Sundays, I think. Saturdays or Sundays? I'll have to check. Sometimes they race half day, and sometimes they'll race a full day. A full day is like 8 till 4, and half day is sort of like, I think, 12:30 or 1 or something like that. That's fairly achievable. But again, in the winter, outside, freezing your nads off, it doesn't really appeal to me. So at this time of year, winter time in the UK, where it's either wet, cold, wet and cold, wet, dark, cold, wet, dark, icy, colder. So with that out of the way, we're probably looking at spring. And if you're from the UK, you'll know spring never really materialises until later on. When the clocks go forward, you automatically think, daylight, the mild weather. No. So the long and short of all this is you have to make time to do things you want to do. This is fairly obvious when you think about it. Things don't just happen. You have to put yourself out. Those that race, you'll also know you don't just turn up with a car, transmitter and a battery and a charger. You end up with a small van load of stuff. Fortunately, I do have most of that from my LMP12 experiences. Like I say, I still would like to do and will plan to do the LMP12 meetings. Depends how long that club stays at their location. Being a new club, it is relying on members, or paying members, and people racing there to support that event. I think I did like 3 or 4 on the trot. And thoroughly enjoyed it. You get to used to sort of how the club works. The reason I haven't gone in the last few months is because I just haven't had the time. Maybe that'll change with the new added venture of the buggy scene. I even thought about doing on-road racing at a localish track. It's probably about 20 minutes away from me. This is still a possibility, regardless of what I do. Time is of essence. Time does not wait for anyone. It just keeps ticking. I suppose one of the worst things to do is not do anything. And then you'll look back and think, I wish I'd done that. So that's, as you get older, you find that things come up and opportunities come up. So what I'm saying is maybe put yourself out, buy that kit, join that club, go and enjoy and do some racing. I'm going to take a leaf out of my own book. If anybody knows about my YouTube channel. It does okay. Those that know why I do my YouTube channel, that's the main reason, documenting, and for someone else to sort of maybe watch what I'm doing rather than chasing the YouTube algorithm and all that stuff. That doesn't interest me like that. I mean, I do like interacting with the people. I like the fact that some people have subscribed and they do comment. People from all around the world are interesting. They've got their own ways, their own problems, their own hobbies, cultures. But to think that all these people can meet online, if you like, at one point, i.e., YouTube video land, and have different opinions, same interest, slightly different interest, but ultimately, people from all around the world, all walks of life, are watching, enjoying, not enjoying, disagreeing, or agreeing with things you're saying online. I think that in itself is quite impressive. Many videos I watch on YouTube I find quite interesting. There's people that have a lot to say about things that I'm interested in, and you do tend to pick things up and learn and see things from a different angle, and I think that's really important. The whole purpose of this, I'm not going to make this video too long, but the purpose of this video was ultimately, as we get older, don't let things slide away. There's a lot of negativity in the world at the moment, a lot of negativity. And if I'm honest, I'm not a particularly negative person. However, it's draining. And if I, quite resilient, are thinking to myself, things are changing, and I'm thinking of it, it's probably time to make changes yourself. So, what I hope to do is get out slightly more regularly with my RC hobby and learn. I have to take into consideration time, but I am going to try and make time. If you're in the same position, or you have your thoughts, or maybe you've had this discussion with your friends or family, what have you done about it? What have they said? Have you given up racing now? Maybe you've done it for many years and it's time for you to stop in your head. Maybe you've decided that enough is enough. I've achieved what I want to achieve. I'd like to hear from people like that, because it'd be nice to know why you've stopped, or even why you've taken it back up. There's no hiding from the fact that most of my channel is about building and restoring vintage RCs, as well as documenting building new RC cars. The whole purpose of building an RC car, in my opinion, is to use it occasionally, not so much. Depends on what type of RC. We're talking like Tamiya, Kyosho, all the Riris, Nitros, old Nitros. Some of those you'll never be able to race. Some of those Riris, not worth racing. A race buggy, out and out race buggy, is definitely the way to go if you decide you want to race seriously. But there are classes out there to cater for most of us. So looking at the time, I've been rabbiting on now in this part for half an hour. This video won't be half an hour, you'll be glad to hear. But that's the plan. So I am going to make a bit more effort in getting out there more. One of the issues being, nobody I know, to me, locally, does RC. No one. I'm not saying there are local people at a track who I don't realise do RC. You might become more friends with those people, so maybe that will help. But as it stands, I don't have anybody to push you forward and sort of encourage you to go and race. So it's all going to be self-motivation to start with. Anyway, that's enough of this chit chat. Let me know what you think. If you're young or old, if you're new, giving up, retired, coming back, let me know what your thoughts are. Do you have the same thoughts? Does RC racing take up all your life? Does it take up a small part of your life? Do you enjoy racing your RC car? It'd be good to hear from you. So, without further ado, I'm done. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you very soon for the next video.